hydropower project to connect one of the country's remotest backwaters to the national electricity grid has suffered a stillbirth after the taxpayer forked out an astronomical 8.5 billion shillings on a wasteful expenditure. Part of this fund, amounting to 3.97 billion shillings, was doled out as commitment fees to secure the loan, and 4.66 billion shillings was incurred for cancelling the loan to fund the MUZIZI hydropower plant. Whereas government acquired a 5.36 million euro grant from the German Development Bank, and another 95 million euros was meant to be funded by the African Development Bank, no construction has been undertaken, yet the dam was meant to be completed by December 2023. This is according to the Auditor General's report to Parliament for the financial year ended June 30th, 2022. These funds were paid for no particular gain, as the 45-megawatt MUZIZI hydropower plant in Kagadi district, mid-western Uganda, was not constructed. At the proposed site of the dam, darkness envelops Ndaiga sub-county in Kagadi district as River MUZIZI, which traces its journey from Mubende district and glides across these gentle slopes before its roaring tributaries are swallowed by Lake Albert after 120 kilometers. The Auditor General, in reports to Parliament in 2019 and 2021, flagged the inability of the project to absorb the loan funds, resulting into the wastage of such colossal sums.
Behind me are the MUZIZI Falls and the MUZIZI River, which will drive the MUZIZI hydropower project, a 48-megawatt dam that's set to burnish the national electricity grid and set to be complete in December 2023. However, with the cancellation of the loan, the question remains, will these benefits accrue to the communities affected?
The stalled MUZIZI hydropower plant represents an all-too-familiar tale of the government borrowing money for a white elephant project while incurring interest and increasing the country's debt obligations. Whereas technocrats attempted to keep the details of the deal away from public oversight, it appears that bidding fights by powerful cartels played a part in the losses that government incurred. During the initial bidding process, it has been revealed that the best evaluated bidder for the works contract, ILF, an Austrian contractor, had a bid price that exceeded the total financing available for the project. So why did government undertake a project without sourcing for its financing? Who is culpable for this gross negligence that resulted in the colossal loss of public funds? The Auditor General advised UEGCL to write to the Finance Ministry to commit to meeting the funding gap, but this extra funding is yet to materialize. Cancellation of the loan facilities for this project has left project-affected persons yet to be compensated in limbo.
Yes, the trees are sitting on 12.5 acres of land.
Jotham Tembo is amongst those who's yet to be compensated for the 12.5 acres of land and 12-year-old pine forest that he owns, on which the dam will sit. Whereas he continues to occupy this piece of land, UEGCL officials have asked him to halt utilizing his land.
We've been using land for agriculture, but we cannot plant coffee, we cannot plant more trees, we cannot construct houses. They always tell you, no, please don't add any other thing. It is now almost 4 years. So I am one of the people who have been affected that way.
Compensation of project-affected persons was further delayed by the lengthy internal review and verification exercise. The time lag in the compensation process has ultimately proved costly.
There is a quarter an acre. Here they locally call it a kipande. That is quarter an acre. Quarter an acre currently is at 2 millions, meaning that an acre now goes for 8 millions. The government value was paying 4 millions. That's what they told us. Meaning that if you buy if they take your land, you'll not be able to buy land elsewhere.
During the last decade, the cost of the land has exponentially increased, sometimes as a result of superficial prices set by speculators.
Because people have heard that there is a project which is going on, and when people hear that there is a project going on, of course the value of land changes. Automatically it changes.
This has compelled government to revise the compensation rates, which is a mandate of the chief government valuer. Wilbrod Kamgisha, the LC1 chairperson, MUZIZI B, recounts the fraud verification, valuation and compensation processes.
We
don't actually know how the government valued our matoke
avocado, and other property. They said the property value was based on the Chenjajo district rates. They didn't explain this.
Kamgisa says many families can't bury their loved ones on their ancestral parcels of land because compensation remains unresolved.
Someone may be paid between 800 and 1 million to exhume the bodies of their loved ones to bury them elsewhere. But you need to buy land for this, yet you have not been compensated.
According to UEGCL's 2021 annual report, a supplementary budget request to complete the compensation process for project-affected persons was submitted, but ultimately rejected, and the budget allocated to the stalled project for the 2023 financial year was shelved by Parliament. This letter, dated June 7, 2022, from UEGCL, provides detail on the outstanding compensation claims. To date, only 2,695,588,977 Uganda shillings, corresponding to 55.48% of the total compensation value, has been made. Eno Kusasira, the spokesperson for UEGCL, reveals the funding challenges the project still faces.
Yeah, we had gotten the extra financing of about 20 million euros, but even with that, the money was not enough. And it wasn't enough because of the change in the designs. So the change in the designs caused that change in the price.
It is evident that the government committed to this project without undertaking a comprehensive appraisal, which has led to a financial loss. The risk of awarding the tender to the highest bidder, even though this required mobilizing extra funding for the project, was not adequately mitigated.
The money to compensate PAPs was supposed to come from government of Uganda. But the moment they said that there was a budget constraint, then the compensation process could not go on as planned.
Evidently, there's a shortage of skilled manpower in overseeing hydropower projects in this country, as well as the institutional capacity to undertake such large-scale energy projects. Jim Mugunga, the Executive Director of Private-Public Partnership Unit in the Ministry of Finance, suggests that government plans to roll out new measures in the acquisitions of loans.
Some of these projects entered into without studies. So as a point of emphasis, the Secretary to Treasury last year guided that no project, whether strategic or otherwise, will get government budget support without studies. And there's everything that we must do to realize that that's a very important guidance. Because all the risks we're talking about that eventually hit us happen because you've not thoroughly studied the project. Because when you do a thorough study of a project, then you identify these risks in time and in advance of project implementation.
The government's pursuit of funding to complete the MUZIZI project is ongoing. However, there is a risk that the latest debacle will undermine investor confidence. Institutional capacity to handle such projects appeals to investors who in the post-pandemic global economy are increasingly risk-averse. Yet Jim Mugunga is optimistic.
The engagement with pension funds and the others of similar nature, there's a lot of resources that are locked up in these funds. Of course, they're for pensioners, but they are seated there for years. So increasingly, there is a push to try and get fund managers to start to look at projects differently, to pick interest in these infrastructure projects that are being done, so that these resources are made available for local infrastructure projects.
Hydropower plants contribute 90% of the electricity supplied to the national grid. The majority of this power is generated from large-scale hydropower plants. At 45 megawatts, the proposed MUZIZI hydropower plant is considered a large hydropower plant in a country where a dam with an installed capacity of at least 20 megawatts is considered large-scale. For a power plant to be viable, the generated electricity needs to be transmitted to the grid. In the case of MUZIZI, this substation is nearing completion and will serve as a conduit to evacuate power to the national grid. Evidently, Uganda has the water resources to generate sufficient electricity to meet its development needs. However, this can only happen by improving the management of hydropower installations, improving the transmission network, the maintenance, and addressing the institutional capacity challenges. The MUZIZI hydropower project is symbolic of these incapacities, as it reveals how the lack of a comprehensive project appraisal cost the government 8.5 billion shillings, deferred the construction of a dam, and left the affected communities in a state of darkness.